G'day team, here we are again. I just thought I'd pop on and give a little explanation to a place called Collins Street that I have already spoken a number of times in previous videos that I lived in Collins Street in Pentridge, which, as everyone knows, there's no Collins Street in Coburg, but Collins Street was part of DW. And I'll start right at the start. That way, hopefully, I don't get lost. That's the main reason. Um, so, in the old days, if you were arrested and sent to the police station and refused bail, you waited there at the station until you were sent to the map. The same system happens now. It's just that in that time, the map was D Division, and they were building the MRC at Swanson Street, which is now the map. So the map, you'd be sent to the map, and D Division, it was the biggest place. As I've already said, it was huge. There's over 1,000 cells, mainly two out. The place was massive. It had a dungeon. I went down the dungeon at one point during my job as a maintenance billet. It was massive, man. Look, I can't overstate how big the place was. It was a three-story division, the only one there. And even though Pentridge was such a big place, most other divisions were either two-story, and there was a couple of single-level bluestone buildings. But D Division was the main. That was the main one. It was higher than the fence, you know. People could drive past on Bell Street and see that building from, behind the fence. It had the bluestone and the razor ribbon around the top, but you could still see the D Division cells. I remember on Saturdays on a visit day, we would wait up the top of at the back of D Division. Up at the back, they had some portables set up for visits, and we would wait there, and you could see into the local football ground. I think just behind where Pentridge was, just off Murray Road. I think it's off Murray Road, somewhere there, Bell Street way. One of them, you know what I mean. And we would watch local cricket while we were waiting for a visit. So, I mean, the place was. I can't believe it was massive. It was massive. Anyway, I'm getting away from myself again. D Division, as I said, three stories. It was the same as any other prison in terms of the way it's built. It's cells on either side of the hallway, and on the next level, cells all the way around. Like same sort of structure, different obviously, the newer they got, but same basic setup. And in Pentridge had what they called the circle, and that's where all the corners, like the four corners of the castle, met in the circle. And it had a staircase that went all the way around on either side, right up. There was gallows further down at one end. It was monstrous, but on one side, on the bottom floor, seemed a lot cleaner, and they had the scullery there, and that's where they would lift out dining room tables in the evening, and bring each yard in one at a time to sit down and have their dinner, and go back out to the yard, pack their stuff up, and get ready to run up to their cell. But on that side, where all the billets lived, and they were all single cells, and they were all, you couldn't lock them, but there you could close your door, and nobody thought there was something going. You could keep your stuff was sweet, and you were one out. I mean, that was the biggest benefit of the lot was you were single. You had 24-hour power. that, that was, as a matter of fact, that was probably the best. Power all the time. The rest of the prison, the officers could turn power off to every cell or to specific cells. And there was a certain time every evening after lockdown that the whole unit would be banging on the trap for power. Power up, power up. It was they'd be banging on the trap, and the louder you bang, the longer it took to get the power on. But then all of a sudden, 5 o'clock it hit or whatever, and boom, all of your stuff would come on. Your TV would turn on, your kettle would work, your Burko or whatever it was you had. But in Collins Street, they never turned it off. So because you were a billet, you could come and go from your cell during the day, look, go home at lunchtime for a brew, sort of thing, which in those days was unheard of. I know these days it might sound like a big fucking deal. You could go home for a brew, good on you, mate. But mate, when you were walking around carrying your bags every day, and you didn't know where if you were going to be in that jail or woken up at 5 a.m. in the morning and find out when you're on an escort, because that's when you found out. When you were getting on the truck, that's when you knew you were going. So, to get a job in Collins Street, it also meant that if you did have a court date and you went to court on a court escort, you would have what they called the black dot on your file, which meant you needed to be returned to the prison that night. It was, unless unforeseen circumstances, of course, but in general, if anyone was going back, people with the dot were going back first. There was always someone that thought, yeah, I'm medical, I got a good job, they need me. But it was called the essential billets dot on that, basically. So, and you could only get that if you lived in this Collins Street part of D Division. And it was like the governor's billet, the food billets, the video billet. You know what I mean? It was all the swish jobs, the maintenance billets. Yard billets didn't even live down there. They lived all up in the middle. Cheers. Kitchen workers didn't live down there. Maybe one or two of the, head kitchen guys, but mainly it was just like random. One of the guys I lived with, in Collins Street, his job was to make the sugar cones. So every day you would get, when your trap opened up, a bowl of porridge, you get your boogoo, and next to it a cone, like a paper, like an A4 piece of paper rolled into the shape of a cornetto full of sugar. And that was it. That was your day's sugar. And your milk and was whacked on there as well. And that was the whack. That was your ration for the day. And I think once a week you got a bag of coffee, some tea bags or something. But I mean, you didn't get much. But yeah, this guy's job was to make these coffee rations. And he had he had the duck's nuts cell. He had for pentridge, you got to imagine that. When I say he had the good cell, his toilet worked. He had a Burko, not a two pieces of metal with a razor blade sticking out of the plug in the wall to boil his water. You know what I mean? You have a good setup like that, just basic comforts. But I mean, yeah, and that was his job. He made the sugar rolls. So I mean, yeah, Collins Street. Everyone was jealous of a Collins Street job. If you got a certain job, it came with that cell. I saw people fight over jobs. I seen people just, get stamped for their job, give up their job. I've seen people, go to war over prison cells, pentridge cells, just because they were single. But yes, Collins Street was it was a place, man. Like it was. If anyone ever said to you, "I went to Pentridge in the D Division," they said, and they would, if they were in Collins Street, they would make a point to tell you, "Yeah, I'm in Pentridge, Collins. Yeah, but I got a Collins Street cell." Like it was that's what you bragged about. So yeah, I mean, I was there for I don't know 3 months or something till I couldn't, till I did something stupid to get the ass and get sacked to the kitchen eventually. But it, yeah, man, Collins Street it was called, and everybody knows. That well, everybody knew that's was the place to be. If you ever got a job, went to Pentridge, that's where you wanted to be. Then they opened the MRC, and the map was no more. But yeah, Collins Street was always open, I think, right up until the end. Um, yeah, so there you go. That's what Collins Street was. It was the basically the billets wing, but with a few other, yeah, a few other purposes. I mean, there were certain people in the units in the system back then. Well, they didn't have as much protection. Like now, there's protection. People can be in your unit with you and still be on. It doesn't make sense anymore. But um, they wouldn't. There was back in the day, if there was trannies in there, they'd be put on protection whether they liked it or not. But I do remember there was a couple. One I'll have a talk about another day. Who would get fucked. I'm not going on protection. Why? What do I need to go on protection for? And they said, because you got tits and you look like a chick. But yeah, nowadays I don't know how those decisions are made. But what I do remember in Collins Street, that's where they lived in Collins Street, the girls. So, but they didn't just get given the cell; they had to fight for it. Like you know, they weren't just get given it just because you got tits and you're going to get soured out there. Um, yeah, but the ones that did live in Collins Street, they were, good people. I mean, I've got nothing bad to say about Kerry. I've got nothing bad to say about any of the girls I met in Pentridge. I've got a couple of stories I'll tell in future about the girls. Funny ones, weird ones, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happens now these days actually with the gender business. They seem to. Ooh, I don't know if I should. This will get me in trouble, maybe. I don't know what happens. Like they used to be put in protection for their own safety, but every now and again, one of them would arc up and say, I'm going to look after myself, pretty much. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that still happens. Dare say it would, you know. But yeah, it's never a recipe for success. I can tell you that. All right, guys. Well, anyway, I know I got off the point of Collins Street and got on to girls in jail, but yeah, Collins Street, famous place. I think it still might be there. I'll go there and have a look, and if there is, I'll piss this silly video off and make a proper one. All right, team. That's it. I'm watching the footy.